So they in fact refused to take part.
They refused to take part, and so
did they publicize? I'm sure they made a statement about why they refused to take part.
Exactly. I mean, finding that, and a lot of the reasons why. I mean, in what we witnessed is that the country had been completely militarized. People were being threatened to vote. The Frente, the Front Against the Coup, which joined and which came together immediately after the Zelaya was ousted from taken in his pajamas by gunpoint to Costa Rica in June, the night of June. They had made a collective statement that they were going to boycott the elections. Boycott meaning that they would not leave their houses the day of the elections. And in response to this, military had gone and ransacked homes, had gone in and threatened leaders and communities. We as a delegation had split up into 5 different teams and for example, and traveled to different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. In doing so, we were able to talk we were able to go into different communities where leaders of communities had been visited by the army, had been threatened. A lot of people had been disappeared. And this was the kind of context. We had an 8-hour bus ride from Tegucigalpa to Santa Rosa de Copan is where we went. And we were stopped twice, and all the men ordered off the bus and searched. And this was the kind of fear and tension that the people of Honduras were witnessing and experiencing. So that being said, the day of the elections, the actual on Sunday when the elections took place, there wasn't a constant report from the different groups and different human rights people in Honduras stated that there weren't people that went out and voted, and that that the voting booths were literally vacant, and that was sort of a constant reiterating theme throughout the country. However, the rhetoric on the other end saying that this was, that people came out and voted, that this was a completely legit and electoral process, that 65% of the population voted, when actually, on the other hand, the resistance is saying that actually 65% abstained from voting as a result of this boycott. It should also be mentioned that in San Pedro Sula, which is another one of the larger cities in Honduras, there was a group that went out, and the resistance, the Frente, has been constantly stated that they're a violent group, that they resulted in violence, and so this is why the military has had to use things like tear gas and weapons to quell their violence. And the reality is that they haven't been violent, that they've been a nonviolent resistance group. And an example of this is on the day of the elections, the Frente, the resistance in San Pedro Sula, decided to go out and march in the streets. And what had happened was that the army opened fire and with tear gas and with water cannon sprays and repressed the population. There was cases of illegal detention. There's over 3,000 cases of illegal detentions throughout this process.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, because obviously you could go on without taking a breath. So I'm gonna make you take a breath. And where is President Zelaya and his family right now?
Well, President Zelaya in and of itself, he actually had been cooped up in the Brazilian embassy, but now the last thing I had read was that he is now in Mexico. He's been flown to Mexico. And the president who's been elected, President Lobos, has actually, who is part of the National Party, which basically the National and the Liberal Party are the two parties in Honduras, and there's not much distinction between the two, wants to declare amnesty for all those involved with the de facto government, with the regime.
Oh, with the coup.
Exactly. And so this is almost like the injustices that's incurred the past couple of months. It's going to be wiped off the map. And I should say also that that just to give, we were talking about Jan Schakowsky earlier. She had actually taken a trip to Honduras, had been visited by a human rights worker, and had said, you know, what can I do? What can I do to support you? And she said, come to Honduras, and that's in fact what she did. And so I think that I just want to commend Jan Schakowsky for really
Jan's
responding.
Jan's good on hemispheric issues. So but in the closing minute or two that we have, Erin, what can people do to learn more about the coup, become involved, get themselves educated beyond listening to you today?
Well, obviously, this is a large issue to cover in 15 minutes. So I would really encourage people to go to the Quixote Center. That's Quixote. Center.org. In that, you'll see videos that we took from our delegation. You'll see documents and history that can kind of give a synopsis of the events that occurred. I also encourage people to call their representatives, call the State Department after reading or after listening today, and just express your concerns of the human rights violations that took place.
Very good. You've been listening to Live from the Heartland on WLUW 88.7 FM, Loyola University's radio, Chicago Sound Alliance, and most specifically, you've been listening to Erin Cox from the 8th Day Center for Justice in Chicago. Thank you so much for being on, Erin, and definitely people should learn more about Honduras and what our government is or is not helping or not helping with down there at the QuixoteCenter.org.